Tears of the Kingdom has managed to surpass my expectations in what a game has to offer. I never thought that Nintendo could outdo the immensity of Breath of the Wild, while still providing the player with so many different puzzles to solve and places to discover. But Tears of the Kingdom did exactly that, exceeding its prequel from top to bottom. Yet despite all the improvements the game seemed to expand upon from Breath of the Wild, it also amplified the many flaws Breath of the Wild has. As amazing as Breath of the Wild is, one of its biggest flaws is its reward system. For a game that had so many quests to undertake, the reward at the end of it all never felt worth the effort it took to complete. A great example is with the 900 Korok Seeds. After taking on such a daunting task that amounts for more playtime than it would take to beat the main game, your reward for your endeavors is nothing more than a golden piece of shit. A completely useless item that can only be viewed in your inventory. With such a mediocre prize, it's as if the game developers are shitting on you for having wasted your time. Although, one can argue that Nintendo never intended for the player to collect all 900 Korok Seeds. They flooded the lands with them, so no matter where you searched for a Korok Seed, you could always stumble upon one. Because after collecting half of them in total, the rest are useless anyway. This makes sense to me, as it does not force the player to commit to such a tedious task to obtain what could have been a desired reward. This is somewhat similar to the gold Skulltulas from Ocarina of Time. There were 100 golden skulls strewn throughout the world, and you only needed 50 to get all their unique rewards. Collecting further Skulltulas was not necessary, since you no longer received any additional unique rewards. The extra 50 Skulltulas only provided the player with additional rupees, with no subsequent rewards in between. And by the time you collected the remaining 50, you'd have no desire for those additional rupees, as you'd most likely have done everything possible within the game. So it seems Nintendo understands that restricting a desired collectible behind a monstrous task would take away from the experience of more casual players who don't have the time or aspiration to 100% the game. And while the same could be said for Breath of the Wild and now Tears of the Kingdom's Korok Seeds, but on a much grander scale, with Tears of the Kingdom doubling down on this idea, with Korok Seeds having the ultimate reward be once again literally a piece of shit. This reward system is also used with the game's light root reward, rewarding the player with another useless inventory item. So it's clear that Nintendo doesn't expect most players to actually collect them all. And although those tasks may just be side objectives, this premise shouldn't hold the same weight for the game's final shrine reward. Shrines are the true meat and potatoes of the game. They outrank the divine beasts and temples, since most of your actual gameplay is spent locating and completing the shrines over anything else. They give you a reason to explore every nook and cranny of Hyrule. So at the end of this journey, you would expect a momentous grand prize to reward your exemplary efforts in progressing thus far. Especially when the rewards for the Korok Seeds and Light Roots are almost meaningless. But again, the shrines are the game's core premise. So after their completion, one would expect something special, right? Yet this reward feels almost as insulting to me as the others. To preface, in Breath of the Wild, your reward for completing all 120 Sheikah shrines was the Tunic of the Wild. And for it being the only green tunic you can obtain without the use of amiibo, it wasn't that bad of a reward. Of course, for players who did have other green tunics obtained from amiibo, it made the Tunic of the Wild feel like a huge letdown, easily being the ugliest design out of all of Link's green tunics. Looking like Link was given a hand-me-down shirt, with the tunic having raglan sleeves akin to a baseball t-shirt. The only positive things about this set was the ability to dye the tunic different colors, unlike the other green tunics from Amiibo that were locked to their color respectively, and once fully upgraded, it gave the player the most defense available for a complete set with the Master Sword beam buff. So when it came to Tears of the Kingdom, I really hoped Nintendo would have given us a greater prize for completing the now 152 Zonai shrines found in the game. Yet surprisingly, the reward for it seemed far worse to me than the Tunic of the Wild. I never imagined Nintendo could trump themselves in giving us an even crappier reward. That being the Ancient Heroes aspect. Like, what the actual fuck is this? It turns Link into a humanoid dog? I get it's based off of a Zonai or a Zonai Hylian hybrid, but holy shit, how did they think that this design was any good? The two Zonai characters featured in the game didn't look nearly as horrid as this. Hell, their designs were actually pretty good. I love how Rauru looks, and I can't hate on Minoru's design either. So how could this be their best interpretation of a Zonai version of Link? Why would Nintendo get us used to playing with such an attractive character design, Link, who can literally wear anything and still look stylish as all hell, and then turn him into this dog-awful shit as a reward for completing all of the shrines? To me, it seems like the biggest slight to the player, as you cannot possibly argue with me that this design is in any way appealing. People will say, it's not the destination, it's the journey, but f*** all that when this is the payoff to the final destination. I don't want to go out of my way looking for the few remaining shrines when this is what's waiting for me at the end. And let's be real, 152 shrines are a bit over the top. The end shrines drag out a bit, especially when one goes out of their way to complete all 120 light routes to make the shrine hunting on the surface easier. And it doesn't help that the reward for completing all light routes is utterly useless. But you tell yourself, hey, there's a bigger reward at play. This will make getting there easier, while utilizing the light routes as a tool to aid in your shrine hunt, only to be let down with this end reward. And unlike the Tunic of the Wild, you cannot dye the outfit nor equip any other attire when wearing it, since you're forced to take on the complete look. I am aware that this design is supposed to reference the ancient hero who stopped Calamity Ganon 10,000 years prior, as even Impa confirms this to Link when he speaks to her while wearing it. But that fact alone doesn't blind me to how unattractive this set is. And it baffles me that Nintendo is trying to convince us that this was the design they had in store for the ancient hero since Breath of the Wild. While the outfit gives similar attributes to the Tunic of the Wild once it's fully upgraded, I still cannot justify a reason to wear it. I honestly didn't mind that Nintendo took a major step with introducing the Zonai in Tears of the Kingdom and gave them crucial roles in Hyrule's past. And having Hyrule's first king be a Zonai, replacing the Triforce's equivalents with the Zonai's secret stones, and even making a past hero as Zonai. Sure, I welcome these changes, but come on, why did you have to do him so dirty like that? Bro looks dumb as fuck. Breath of the Wild's final shrine reward was a nostalgic callback for older fans by giving us a green tunic, but that sentiment was ruined with it being the worst interpretation of the tunic yet. Then to follow that up, Nintendo decided that Tears of the Kingdom's final shrine reward was to be an outfit inspired by their new take on Hyrule's Zonai-filled history, with a hero that resembled a Zonai, yet this was also ruined by making him look appalling in comparison to any other Zonai or really any other character design found in the game. I can't help but feel that Nintendo is doing this deliberately, because these designs are genuinely unsightly. It's like they are f***ing with their most loyal fans who will go out of their way to 100% their games. Though I get that this is all very subjective and that some may disagree with my take, as I'm sure there are some people out there who may like this canine outfit. Probably furries. But when compared to everything else the game has to offer, as there are tons of amazing looking sets in the game, it makes it hard to believe that Nintendo really thinks that this is actually the best reward that they could give the player as a completion bonus. As someone who has been a fan of the series for the majority of my life, and who greatly admires almost all Nintendo's choices aesthetically with the series, it is odd to me that they would drop the ball this hard when it came to the final reward for both games. Nintendo seemed to have never missed before, so why now? It doesn't make sense to me. Personally, my only logical reasoning for this is that similar to the Korok Seeds and Light Roots, they are purposely designing homely sets for players who will never put the effort in completing all shrines, which in today's day and age is presumably most of their player base. So having the final reward be something you could shrug off is a safer option than having the player feel that they need to force themselves to go out of their way to complete every single shrine. And while it is a nice sentiment for the majority of players, it is a huge insult for their most dedicated players.